Okay, so you've got your eyes dilated right now, and
Yes.
I'm on 4 hours of sleep, and I think that's why today's going to be probably our best session.
It will be. I may not be able to see half of what's going on, but it's, I can still talk and I can still reflect, but I don't know what I might be looking at. So
Okay, okay, I love it. I love it. This will be fun. All right, my friend, I'm gonna let you begin wherever you want to start today.
one of the big things that we talked about was speed bumps, right? And making sure that speed bumps stay speed bumps and not derail the train. I was lucky enough to have some speed bumps in between some sessions. And I can report back in confidence that the battle to keep the speed bumps was much more easily fought because I was able to name them as speed bumps, and having the language and having the ability to step back and take the things from our sessions, take some of the stuff that we talked about, and make those speed bumps smaller, and instead of letting them grow and fester.
There's a steadiness in your voice right now that I haven't really heard yet in the two previous sit downs. I mean, obviously, our first time sitting, it was our first time doing this, and we went right into, the stuff you're struggling with. 2 weeks ago, I know you had you were in a great mood. A lot of that was external driven, right? It was the opposite of speed bumps. You had testimonials coming in. You had a lot of outside stuff happening, and it was cloud nine, and it was like, Tarik, how do I keep this feeling going? And as happy as I was to see that, I'm almost more happy seeing this where, like, after speed bumps, we come back with some sort of, like, there's like a steadiness that I'm feeling in not only your voice, but just your body language and how you're showing up right now. And I don't know if you feel that, but it's coming across to me when I compare what I'm seeing now to 3 weeks ago. So in our time today, what would be a win for you in the next 45 minutes?
Maybe if we could talk a little bit about some of the reasons, and then maybe some techniques or something of overcoming my desire to want to over-educate and over-analyze and over-prepare and over everything to any type of situation. And because I feel that not only can I never get to a place where I feel adequately prepared, I feel that when I do those things, that I overcomplicate the situation, and the situation becomes something that it's not. Trying to figure out how to recognize that a little bit before that process goes. And then when I find myself veering into that, how do I slow down? So maybe what are some ways that I can adequately prepare instead of over-prepare? How do I adequately approach a situation in the confidence of knowing what I can do instead of the fear of the unknown or what I believe to be? I felt a little rambly with that, but I wanted to try to get it out. Did any of that make sense?
Yeah. Hey, no, I love it. I think I'm tracking. Can I reflect that back to make sure that we're on the same page?
Please.
So how do I adequately prepare from like this place of confidence, wanting kind of to look at the reasons and then the techniques to get out of this habit of, I heard over-educating, over-analyzing, over-preparing for situations. It sounds like something like the shoot that you have tomorrow. And I see you like nodding your head as I say that. So how do we accurately, adequately approach those things so that they don't feel like a huge thing that's unapproachable, is what I heard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's you put it a much better way than I could have.
I had the luxury of getting to listen and digest and then formulate that. So no, like I'm tracking. This does remind me of some of the ethanol stuff from last time, by the way.
Yeah, a little bit.
Because the first question I have for you, like I asked you 2 weeks ago around the self-doubt piece of like what might be the benefit of these fears, and similar question here, like what might be the benefit of this urge to prepare and be ready?
The benefit is that if you can prepare for a lot of different potential outcomes, you have the ability to pivot as the outcome unfolds. You have the ability to kind of play all of, like, if there were 1,000 different possible scenarios and 4 of those scenarios come up, you can pivot easier because in your mind you've prepared for them. I put all the anxiety at the beginning so that when I'm in it, I don't have it as much. I think that's a good thing for customer service. I think that's a good thing for when you're trying to build a business, to be as calm and seem as in control as possible. So I do definitely see a benefit there. But that offload, like, that means that I'm always anxious when I'm not around customers. And I'm always anxious when I'm not on the job. So that means my family and the people closest to me get the worst version of myself, and the anxious version, and the overprepared version, and the paranoid version. I don't want that.
And I might just be restating what you just said, but I just want to maybe ask you this question. The overlap between this, like, desire to give the best and the overeducating, overanalyzing, overpreparing, like, what's the overlap on that?
Well, I think it overlaps in the gap that self-doubt lives in, where I don't feel that I'm able to give the client or whoever the absolute best that they deserve, because I can't do it with what I currently have, with the tools that I currently have. I think so. The gap there is that insecurity that I'm going to let somebody down, or I'm not going to be able to explain myself fully, or I'm not going to be able to meet the standard that I'm expecting myself and to give. So that's the overlap, I believe, in those two things.
Yeah, no, I'm tracking, Josh. I'm just kind of drawing out a couple, like, 3 threads. I don't know how interlinked they are, but we'll just kind of keep playing here if you're cool with that.
Yeah.
A couple things I'm hearing, right? So this feeling of, like, I don't have what I need on my own. Mm-hmm. However we want to phrase that. Yeah. Therefore, like, let's lean on other things to prepare, right?
Yep.
Bucket 1. Bucket 2 is, like, how much we're expecting of ourselves. I think that's the first time I've heard you say it that way, so I want to call that out. And then bucket 3 is, like, the actual, like, outside preparedness and, like, the things you're doing before the shoot tomorrow. And I imagine that gets manifested by the stuff kind of inside. And it has me wondering, like, is this a conversation about, like, dialing back the preparedness to a level where you feel like it's optimized, or is this a conversation about, like, what if this belief that you don't have what you need is actually BS?
That's easy. That's the latter. That's absolutely what it is, because objectively, there's nothing that says that I'm not prepared. Nothing. I'm always over prepared.
Okay. Can we test this on, like, our 0 to 100 scale for a sec?
Yeah.
On a scale of 0 to, you like 100 or 10?
100's cool.
100's cool. Okay.
I like nuance.
Sounds good. On a scale of 0 to 100, 100 being, like, the maximum amount of preparedness or overanalyzing, overeducating that is humanly possible. 0 is, like, we're winging it fully. What number do you feel like you currently operate at, like, before us having these conversations?
Probably like 92. I spend, I would say that for every hour that I am doing something, I will spend 5 preparing for it. So I've got like a 12-hour shoot tomorrow, right? I've got 60 hours into preparing it for it. I don't need 60 hours to prepare for it. I know I don't need it, but I still do it. And saying that out loud means that there's a part of my whole process that actually isn't giving the customer everything that they want. So I have talked myself into a realization that I thought I was doing all the things that was right and being prepared for it, but I'm not giving everything that I need on this other creative side too. So that's real, and probably needs to be addressed.
Do you play any sports, or are you a sports fan?
Played a lot of sports all through my life. Yeah, for sure.
Golf? What's your favorite one?
I'm a huge basketball fan. Yeah, love basketball. Yep.
Okay, so like defense, ball handling, 3-point shooting, free throw
All of
shooting.
it, sure.
Okay, driving the net. 5 categories. There's going to be times where like you might be an 89% free throw shooter and it feels good to hit free throws. And man, do you need to learn how to run back and defend, but when we are left to our own devices, sometimes it's easier to go back to the free throw line and feel good.
Yeah, if my high school basketball coach was watching, he would laugh at the 89% free throw thing. But yeah, you're right. You're right. It's like so it's kind of like you're getting at this idea of being a specialist versus being a generalist, right? I don't have the luxury of being a specialist. I have to run the business. I have to take care of all the technicalities of the shoot. I need to do the shoot, the creative, all of those things. I have got to do all of them. I can't just focus on one. But I found out that I am really just trying to turn myself from an 89% free throw shooter into a 91% free throw shooter. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the way that it feels. Like I want to be the best technical. I want to make sure that my. Oh man.
There we go.
Yeah. I spent the first 4 years of the business saying to myself, I want to make sure that the processes are right. All the processes, got to make sure all the processes are down and correct. That was the goal, right? So, all the customer onboarding, all of this, all of the technical onsite, like it's all the processes have to be perfect. And I've never moved on from that. Even though my processes are really good, I've never actually moved on to the next phase of things, which is, okay, now I need to take my creative to the next level. So, yeah, I don't necessarily know the reason why I have done that, but I know that I have not done that.
What happens to your 0 to 100 off of the current 92 if we just pause the world for a sec? I snap my fingers, and for a month, you have full trust in what you've done, because I've programmed it into your brain, like, hypothetically, full trust in what you've done, and you've just got some inner belief that, like, yo, I'm enough. I don't need Google, I don't need ChatGPT, I'm good. I'm just curious, what happens to that 92?
I think it would open up a lot of resources. I think it would dump some of that emotional and internal energy into a different bucket, and feed a different muscle, different mental muscle. But I'm not exactly sure what it would look like. I don't know.
Okay.
I'd like to, I mean, I'm certainly open to trying to find out, but I don't have a clear picture of what that would be.
And so if I remove those two things from you, if I give these two conditions to you, that you feel like you're trusting in everything that you've set up, and you've got a belief that what you have is enough, is there anything else keeping you from like the steady state that you want to be operating from here?
Not that I can think of at this point. Not that I can think of. Certainly, possibly there upon deeper reflection, maybe, but not that I can think of.
Okay. So then if I zoom out for a sec, is it fair to say that like in this sphere of Tarik, why am I overeducating, overanalyzing, overpreparing, in that whole sphere, and going from like 92 down to the 20% that you want to get to, it seems like we've isolated like two kind of things here that are keeping us at the 92. One of them is around you and maybe some lack of trust in like what you've put together, and 2 is this feeling that like you yourself, you're not enough.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that seems to be at the heart of it.
So if we tackle those 2 things, theoretically, the number should come down.
It should. We would agree on the theory and the hypothesis for sure.
Okay. Okay. Define this word enough. You feel like you're not enough. Like what does enough mean?
I don't have the foggiest idea of what it would mean to be enough. It's the most abstract word in my whole life. Can't, and it's probably why it remains so elusive, right? Because you can't name it, can't define it. You can only kind of feel it. Sometimes when you have those fleeting moments of feeling enough, you know what it feels like, but it's so fleeting that it's never around long enough for you to dig in and define it. I don't know, man. I don't know what it would mean to define that word. Synonym or close relatives would be, competent, capable, dependable, predictable, maybe. No, I don't know. Predictable is a little weird, but it came up and I figured I'd say it out loud. Yeah, I think you asked what would be a win, right? What would be a good win? It's okay that the enough bucket isn't full, right? Like, to know that it's there and to know that you'll have the pleasure of working on something. That's the win. The win is knowing that you get to work on the enough bucket instead of you having to work on the enough bucket. Like, almost is turning it into like a hobby. Like, it's really cool that I get to train to become this different type of specialist. Not I have to because it's a ding on my character or it shows a weakness or whatever it is, right? That's the win. The win is that the enough bucket is a cool opportunity to become something that you're not, instead of a definition of whatever you lack. There. That's the enough. That's the win, right? That's what we're after.
What just happened there?
I have no idea. Maybe the caffeine kicked in. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't think it is. I'm tracking. Yeah.
It just I don't want to get rid of whatever internal compulsion drives me to become the best version of myself possible. I don't want to get rid of that. I want to be the best dad possible. I want to be the best husband possible. I want to be the best business owner possible. I think I've said this time and time again. I want to become the best version of myself possible. That means the enough bucket's got to be there. But I would really like it to be the intent of all of this is to become something instead of chasing after the definition of what I'm not. Right? That's really what I would love to be after.
And I know how driven you are, and I've heard that kind of inner drive and the compulsion. So is there some relationship between like, oh, if I was enough, that means that I'd lose that compulsion or I'd lose that drive?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's always the fear, right? It's the fear that healthy people don't need medicine, right? So when you get healthy all the way, you don't have any need for those things, and you can. We humans, me especially, chief among them, is that if you don't have to put forth the energy into doing something, you won't. If you think that you're fine where you are, cool, you're just going to stay there. So, yeah, the fear of losing whatever drives you to be better is something I don't want to lose. But I would like the aim to be more positive and less toxic.
This framing that you're kind of, I can see it in your eyes as you're walking through it, like you're speaking quicker, you got the energy. If we were to apply this, say there's a shoot 2 weeks from now, what impact does this have on how you think about what you need to do to prepare for stuff going forward?
So if it was 14 days out, right? If it was 14 days out between shoots, normally it would be the first 10 days of that process would be making sure all the processes are in order, right?
Mm-hmm.
And going over them again. And then you spend the last 4 days throwing the creative together and heading in and doing it. I would desperately love to flip that. Deep down, I probably know that it could be that way. Whether or not I trust that yet or not, I don't think that would be a true statement.
Give me a couple brass tacks of what it would look like. You're not committing to doing it, but let's go into it for a sec.
I think I would call together the creative team I have earlier. I would engage in that a whole lot earlier. Instead of like normal process, it's like, okay, contract signed, and then a few days out before the shoot, hey team, here's the brief, here's what the customer wants. What are we going to do creatively, right? Maybe we do that right after signing, and we pull that team together, and we have those meetings. We have those discussions earlier and longer. And then we just deal with the technical side of what needs to be done after the creative set. It actually probably makes more sense to do it that way anyway.
Okay, so what happens with the 92 with as we land here the last few minutes?
Sure.
What's happening to the 92?
I can see where it's starting to lose its grip on that high end, right? I can sense that it doesn't really need to be that high, or it doesn't need to be that high that long. It needs to be 92 for a few hours or a day, but it doesn't need to be 92 for 2 weeks.
So like, I've seen your eyes like 4 times in the past hour, like have these like aha moments, and I just want to make sure that we're like
dilation earlier too,
yeah,
so
right,
that might.
That's right. But you know what I mean. Okay, I can see that you have it in your head, Josh, of what like 92 for a few hours looks like, and not 92 for the rest of the time looks like. I can see that you have that in your brain. If you were to operate that way, what impact does that have on like the 3 groups or more groups of stakeholders here, like your clients, yourself, and you mentioned your family?
Sure. I think for clients, they end up getting more of what they're actually wanting, like creative outcomes. That's why they come to me. They don't come to me because I'm really good at gearing up and putting things together and running stuff. So I think they actually get more value than what they say. That's a good thing. My family gets a less stressed, more fun version of me, who's probably a little more bearable to be around, for sure. And actually, yeah. And then, I'm sorry, could you please remind me of that third stakeholder?
Yourself, my friend.
I always tend to forget about myself. I think I would just have, like, I wouldn't feel like wrung out as much. Like, just, I'd have a little bit more energy to be, ability to relax and to repair and refresh, instead of kind of feeling running on empty so often.
Okay. You did great, Josh. You did great. I know we wandered a little bit, took a couple off ramps and on ramps, and I think we got to a couple different realizations here. What do you want to do going forward, action wise, between now and the next time we sit down?
I want to I want to practice letting some of my processes, my post-shoot processes be, instead of lingering on them. I'm going to try to practice it. It'll be a small microcosm of my pre-shoot practices, because that's a whole big lot of things. I'd like to see if I can go through my processes and try to do them in less time. Normally it's like 2 or 3 days. Maybe I can do them all in one and not do all that, and see what that's like.
I'm grateful for you too. You're crushing it. Great job today. I know we went deep in a few areas.
I appreciate it.
All right, my friend. You know where to find me in between. Otherwise, we will talk again next week.
Love it. Can't wait.
All right. Cheers.
See ya.
Bye.